Hello, curious minds. Welcome to another episode of Something Explained. Today, responding to a compliment but taking it as a challenge myself, we're going to talk about clouds. That's right, those fluffy cotton candy formations in the sky that turn our day into an open-air art gallery. Who would have thought that something so mundane could be more interesting than a Harry Potter movie? Have you ever looked at the sky and seen a dog, a dragon, or even your Uncle Steve's face in a cloud? Don't worry, you're not going crazy, depending on the case. This is something we all do, and it even has a name, pareidolia. But I'll explain that more later, so stay with me. Before we dive into the crazy shapes we see in clouds, let's understand a bit more about these giant puffs. Cloud formation. Clouds are formed when water vapor in the air cools and condenses, forming tiny water droplets or ice crystals. But how does this happen? Let's start from the beginning, the water cycle. Water from oceans, rivers, and lakes evaporates due to the sun's heat, turning into water vapor. This vapor rises into the atmosphere, where the temperature is lower. As the vapor rises and encounters cooler air, it begins to cool and condense into water droplets. These droplets are tiny, each about 0.01 millimeters in diameter. They are so small that they can float in the air. When many of these droplets come together, they form a cloud. Depending on the altitude, temperature, and air currents, these clouds can take on different shapes and sizes. There are different types of clouds, each with its unique characteristics. Some of the main types include cirrus, thin, high clouds that look like bird feathers. They are composed of ice crystals and usually indicate that the weather is going to change, because nothing says weather change like a bunch of flying ice at 30,000 feet. Cumulus, the classic clouds, big, fluffy, and white, looking like cotton candy. They form on clear and sunny days and rarely bring rain. They are like that friend you invite to the party just because they look good in photos. Stratus, clouds that cover the sky like a gray blanket. They are closer to the ground and can bring light drizzle or fog. Basically, the atmospheric equivalent of that friend who is always down and insists on killing the party vibe. Each type of cloud tells us something about the weather, but they all start the same way, with water vapor rising, cooling, and condensing. The real moral here is that even clouds have their phases, highs and lows, so we can too, and it's okay. What if we evaporated and lived as clouds? How would you be as a cloud? Leave it in the comments. Now that we understand the basics of how clouds form, let's talk about pareidolia. That funny phenomenon that makes us see familiar shapes in clouds, toast, wall stains, and even alphabet soup. Pareidolia is an evolutionary ability of our brain that helped us survive. In ancient times, our ancestors needed to be very good at recognizing patterns, like human faces, to quickly identify friends or foes. Today, we use the same ability to find the profile of Homer Simpson on a pancake or a dinosaur in a cloud. When we look at clouds, our brain is basically in creative mode, trying to find something familiar amidst the chaos. That's why you might look at a cloud and see an elephant, while your friend next to you swears it's a shark. Clouds are like blank canvases that allow our imagination to run wild. And everyone sees something different. The beauty of pareidolia is that it connects us back to our childlike creativity. Remember when you were a kid and could spend hours looking at the sky, finding dragons, castles, and spaceships among the clouds? This ability to see the extraordinary in the ordinary is something many of us lose in the rush of adult life, and I believe it's good to exercise and maintain it daily. It helps us sometimes see something good in a situation that seems bad. So next time you're stressed or need a break, do yourself a favor. Look at the sky, find a cloud, and let your mind play. It's free, relaxing, and who knows, you might even find the inspiration you were looking for. After all, in a world where everything needs to have a function, how about appreciating something that exists just to be beautiful and make you smile? Before we continue, I'd like to ask for a little help from you. Leave that like and make a comment. If you've made it this far, comment, "Clouds are better than Harry Potter," so I know you're engaged. And if you're enjoying the video and haven't subscribed yet, I kindly ask you to consider it. There's a little button on the right, and I have a lot of cool content to bring to you. Thank you. Stories and myths about clouds. Now that we've talked about pareidolia and how our brain turns clouds into a moving art gallery, let's take a trip around the world and see how different cultures have interpreted these floating wonders. Clouds in Greek mythology. We start with the ancient Greeks, who not only invented democracy, but also some of the craziest stories about clouds. In Greek mythology, clouds were often associated with the gods. Zeus, the boss of Olympus, was known for hiding his lover Io from the jealous eyes of his wife Hera by turning her into a cloud. Because, of course, nothing says secret romance like turning your loved one into a piece of floating vapor. Clouds in Chinese culture. In ancient China, clouds were seen as harbingers of good luck and prosperity. Chinese dragons, symbols of power and good fortune, often flew among the clouds. And here we are, thinking that dragons only exist in Game of Thrones. For the Chinese, clouds were signs that dragons were nearby, bringing rain and fertility to the crops. So basically, seeing clouds was like winning the agricultural lottery. Clouds and the Norse gods. The Vikings also had their own ideas about clouds. They believed that clouds were the breath of frost giants. Just imagine, you look at the sky and see these huge, dark clouds and think, oh sure, it's just a frost giant grumbling after a heavy meal. No wonder they were so tough. Anyone who thinks bad weather is caused by frost giants needs to have nerves of steel. Clouds in Japanese folklore. In Japan, clouds are often associated with spirits and spirituality. Clouds are seen as portals between the world of the living and the dead, often appearing in ghost stories and fairy tales. Nothing like an innocent-looking cloud to add a touch of supernatural mystery to your day, right? Clouds in Native American culture. Native Americans also had their own views on clouds. For many tribes, clouds were seen as messengers from the gods, bringing rain and with it, life and renewal. Rain dances and other rituals were performed to invoke the clouds and ask for their blessings. Of course, nowadays, if you dance to summon clouds in the middle of the street, you'll probably end up on YouTube as a weirdo viral. The next time you're lying on the grass looking at the sky, think about all these stories and imagine what the ancients would say about the clouds you see. Maybe that elephant you see in the cloud is actually a disguised Chinese dragon, or a grumbling frost giant. Or maybe it's just a cloud and that's okay, because even the simplest things can have incredible meanings.